Remember to breathe. This is a very relevant story, but if you are not in a place where you are recognizing triggers as pointing the way to a wound that needs to be healed, if you are still in a place where triggers need to be avoided or protected, you might want to scroll. So once when the world was younger, there was a very wise medicine man. And he really enjoyed his village life. He had a beautiful life. But one night, Great Spirit came knocking and put a mission on his head. He was told, this is the time of war and the people are suffering. And you must go from village to village to village to teach peace and love and forgiveness. When the medicine man awoke, oh no, we are not doing this. The nations are being plagued now. They are suffering. They are being killed. They are dying. Disease is rampant. How can I go into the villages and teach love and peace when we are being hunted on our own lands? I cannot. But night after night after night, his sleep was disturbed, and the call kept coming. It began to drive him quite crazy, and he began to get sick in his body. So finally, he accepted and relented. He took his grandson with him and began to travel from village to village. And he was met with exactly what he feared. He was met with anger and rage. How can you speak words of love and peace and forgiveness to us? You're insane. You're foolish. You're weak, old man. How dare you speak to us these words when we are dying? And they would chase him out. And yet he would go to the next village and speak the same words. We must have peace in our hearts. We must hold peace in our hearts. Old man, you are insane. How dare you bring this message to us? You are a fool. You are going to get us all killed. You want us to lay down like sheep? Oh, and he tried and he tried and he tried. One night, Spirit woke him up and he rolled just in time to avoid the knife that came lashing into the ground through the blankets. His grandson awoke and fought them off, and they grabbed their things and they ran. And yet, even though the grandson said, "Grandfather, we cannot keep doing this. We will die carrying this message. I do not even believe if this is the message we need to be carrying. Grandfather, please. Let's just go home. We must protect our people, move our village. We must do something." But Grandfather had already had this argument with Spirit, and he knew what he must do. So they went on to the next village, and it was the same thing. "Old man, we are going to war, and we will defend our people, our wives, and our children, and how dare you tell us not to?" And the medicine man spoke as he had before. "Listen, I am not saying that we do not defend our people and our loved ones. I am saying that when we go to war, that we have peace and love in our hearts. We do not fight against the settlers. We fight for love. We do not fill our hearts with anger and hatred. We fill our hearts with prayer. We fill our hearts with faith. We must do this." And yet, his message would be rejected, and he would be chased from the village. Once again, the grandson came to him. "Grandfather, we must go home. This is fruitless. This is doing nothing. Look, your body is bruised from the stones that are thrown. I see how heavy that your heart is. Let us just go home. And the grandfather sighed. Grandson, sometimes when you speak love, you will be met with anger and hatred. I know that even if this message reaches one person in the village, one person that chooses to fight for love instead of against hate, that when they move into the spirit world, they will walk freely. They will not carry the anger and the hatred and the sickness that comes from them with them to the other side. We must continue. We must speak words of love into the darkness, or it will forever be dark. The medicine man carried on his mission. He never gave up. Village after village after village, until Spirit set him free. When his grandson returned to his own village, he returned strong and in faith, and he told stories of the awe and wonder he carried from his grandfather that never gave up, for his grandfather that lived the rest of his life being scorned and laughed at, humiliated and chased away by his own brothers and sisters for the message that he carried. And his grandson took up that message. His grandson never gave up the love in his heart. He fought the good fight. But when he fought and when he took life for the protection of his family and his brothers and sisters, he did so carrying faith in his heart. A prayer that the war will end, that the people will see, and that they will return back to balance and harmony and love. I put out a video a couple of days ago, and I was reminded of this story, that when you speak words of love, when you speak love, sometimes you will be met with anger and hatred. And it gave me pause, and it hurt. And I struggle very often to not take things personally. I know it's not personal that people have hurt. And I remember the words of this medicine man. To speak words of love, it's not always received. It's not always appreciated. There were quite a few comments saying that I was condoning abuse and abusers, that it wasn't going to be okay. It was never going to be okay. And it brought sadness to me. I've been working through it because I do believe that triggers are there to show us where something is not healed. It made me remember how much fear I carry still to tell these stories, to bring a message of hope and faith, to keep to the path. And I also know that I can't stop, because for every person that rejects me, rejects the message, rejects the hope, rejects the faith, rejects the love, just like this medicine man, if there is one person that hears the message, one person that takes up the call, one person that opens instead of closes, and I must remind myself that it is worth it. It is not an easy path to walk. To speak into the darkness, especially when the darkness is so prevalent and so easy to choose, because there is darkness, there is pain, there is hardship, there is lies and manipulation and sickness. But what else do we do? Not speak? Deny the possibility of healing? I can't do that anymore. I did for a time. I said, screw everybody else. I'm going to protect myself. And just like the medicine man, I was robbed of sleep. My life got hard. I got sickness in my body. And I was very, very clearly told, we've given you these gifts for a reason. And if you choose not to use them, then we'll take them away and give them to somebody else. And there's too much goodness in life. During the hard times, it's really hard to remember the goodness. But we can. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's downright terrifying and hard. But I believe that we are made of love. We are divinely made. Creator has shaped us. And in my prayers, I always give thanks for the capacity for love. And so that is what I strive for. And sometimes, yeah, it sounds silly to have love and peace in times of war. But I'll tell you what, war is the number one thing that creates spiritual awakening. Those that carry indigenous bloodlines have much to heal, and it is very easy to give way to the anger and the hurt that was done to the people of this land. But we are breaking the cycle. There are more and more that are lifting their heads in pride that we are the ancestors of the survivors, and that we are learning to tell the stories of wisdom and goodness and faith, to remember our ancestors not for what they have suffered, but for what they have overcome. And we have so much work to do. It brings, it hurts. It hurts me to think about how much work we have to do. The poverty and the suffering still, the anger and the pain and the woundedness. But what else are we gonna do? We can't live there. I refuse to believe that that is the way of it, and it will always be that way. More and more people are waking up. More and more people are remembering the wisdom of our ancestors. And we're growing and we're healing. So thank you if you have listened this far, and I would ask you to lift your voices in prayer. I would ask you to keep the peace and the faith in your hearts and in your prayers. And I would ask you that if you disagree with the content and if you disagree with this message, then just scroll on and dismiss it. There's no reason to add your comments here to try to hurt me or stop me. You are allowed to disagree. Absolutely. And I am allowed to disagree with you. Because that's freedom, isn't it? To be allowed to have our beliefs without having to have someone else's beliefs forced on us. Because isn't that where the pain began to begin with? Or for me to force my beliefs on you? That is not what this is. This is a story that I was told, that I chose to accept into my heart. I pray that you choose to accept it into yours. And if not, that's okay. Either way, much love, relatives. Have a beautiful day.